Hello, this is Robert again for another episode of the Fabric of the Cosmos. This is episode 3. The title of this is Quantum Leap. Now this is a very interesting episode because as Brian Greene spoke of in the Fabric of the Cosmos, Brian used a few quotes from Albert Einstein. So for those of you who don't know who Albert Einstein is, and I certainly hope you do, Albert Einstein was one of the most remarkable physicists known to man, other than Stephen Hawking and a great many others. He just had a gift in mathematics. He's the one who developed the formula E equals mc squared. And he was an individual who people call, when he was growing up as a child, his teachers thought he was an idiot. Just because there were some things he had a tough time grasping. But he was just one of those who absolutely proved them wrong. I'm glad he did. So, in this episode, Brian spoke of particles, entanglement, teleportation, which is my favorite, and quantum bits. So I'm going to briefly summarize just a little bit of each thing, so you kind of have an idea of what was discussed. So in particles, Brian spoke about different wavelengths, and quantum leap is just really fascinating. So he spoke of quantum leap as being like particles that travel around a nucleus in a cell. And as they do that, they're attracted to each other. So kind of like a proton, a neutron, they're attracted to each other. And when heat is applied, they literally leap. So they kind of they're taken further away, further apart. It's either taken. It's like you apply the heat, they're drawn apart. You reduce the heat, they're drawn together. Interesting fact, because that kind of behavior is just very much like human behavior. In one of his statements, he quoted Einstein. He says, Einstein didn't believe in just the mere roll of the dice. He believed that all things happen for a reason. There's a purpose for everything. But he didn't just believe in chance. He believed that there was a reason for something the way it was. In fact, his statement, I can look at the screen, but you'll probably see it backwards. I think it's right here. Entanglement is a theoretical prediction in quantum mechanics. That's not the one I was looking for, but Einstein referred to spinning particles as spooky at a distance. So spinning particles, when Brian spoke of spinning particles, he used a pinwheel effect, where when particles, when they do their thing, they spin. But when Albert Einstein referred to them as spooky from a distance, I guess he was referring to the fact that when they perform, or when they spin, it's maintaining their pattern, I guess, is what he thought of as spooky. Like, do they maintain a constant pattern, or do they go at a different pattern or different pace? And Niels Bohr seemed to agree with him, but Niels Bohr didn't find that he was correct. He really didn't prove much, but Albert Einstein did. Entanglement is something I also spoke of, a theoretical prediction in quantum mechanics. Entanglement is a really interesting thing to get into. Interesting in the sense that particles just kind of, like I said, they kind of are just drawn to each other. That's something that still I have yet to learn. But and in teleportation, again, my favorite, he spoke about materialization and dematerialization. He used Star Trek as a pretty good reference with the transporter system, you know. So what if humans, he talked about it with the question of what if human beings could dematerialize and then in one location. Let's say you want to beam up somewhere, you're leaving Cleveland, Ohio, you want to teleport to Louisville, Kentucky. So then your body would just dematerialize. Every atom, every piece of you, every molecule, everything would dematerialize and then rematerialize at a different location. What if that was possible? What if time travel was possible? It would change the way we do things. It would change a lot. He said a human being could teleport themselves by dematerializing from one location and rematerializing another. Of course, we just talked about that. And then he said that, a human could be extracted and then reconstituted from one place to another. He said, in teleportation, your original state would be, in a way, vaporized and left as a lump of dust. Well, let's just hope that doesn't happen. If this ever becomes possible, don't dematerialize, and otherwise you might become a lump of dust. Who knows where you'll end up after that. So finally, he talked about quantum bits. Now, I like this. Now, to me, it didn't come across as really he's talking about like a quantum vacuum or anything like that. But quantum bits, let's take a quantum computer, for example. They calculate bits at a much faster, higher rate than today's standard computers do. Now imagine taking information and processing those binary bits of information. Now, for those of you who are not computer savvy, a 1 and a 0 are now known as bits. And groups of 1s and 0s are also known as bytes, megabytes, gigabytes, and so on. It's how they're grouped together is what determines that. Bits are pieces of information. They represent pieces of information. In quantum computers, however, those bits of information can be processed at really, really fast rates. So think of transfer rates as being 10 times what they are today. So instead of transferring data in gigabits per second, you're probably transferring in, a quantum computer can probably transfer in terabits per second. Now that's super fast. Okay. So, unlike a standard computer, quantum computers are just much more powerful. They're flexible because they use qubits or quantum bits, which is a mix between a 0 and a 1. So what if you have bits that transfers information that are both 0s and 1s? That's another thing that was associated with a quantum computer. They can transfer data in groups, 0s and 1s. So when you think in terms of logic, that's not just a yes, 1 meaning yes or 0 meaning no. or on or off. It's both. Now that's a language I don't necessarily quite have down in my member bank yet, but eventually. So, but that's kind of a basic summary of what was discussed. What Brian Greene talked about. Very fascinating stuff. I strongly encourage you to go read it or go see it. Or I encourage you to go online and see these videos. They're really quite cool. If you like physics, you're going to have some fun. Until next time, have a great evening. Bye-bye.